I probably shouldn't drink while we're recording.
This is the test run. Who cares? I'm literally sucking on icebreakers. So sours.
Wow. Good to see you're sucking on something.
I hate you.
Hello, and welcome to Young Adult Reviews, where two young-ish adults review books meant for much younger adults.
Or children.
I'm Chloe.
And I'm Honor, and this week we are discussing the Folk of the Air trilogy by Holly Black. And if you haven't read it yet, here's the spoiler warning.
We're going to include a content warning in this episode for bullying and general violence.
Love to see it.
Let's get into it.
So the first book, The Cruel Prince, starts out with our main character, Jude Duarte, who is whisked away to fairyland with her sisters at the age of 7 after her parents were murdered by her mother's fairy ex-husband.
That's a lot of baggage. 10 years later, she is being raised along the fairy gentry as the adopted daughter of Maddox, the High General to the crown and murderer of her parents. But living along the gentry as a mortal isn't easy.
Jude and her sister Taryn are bullied every day in their classes, and the worst of all is Prince Cardan, the youngest heir to the throne of the High King. He is so fucking mean.
But Jude never backs down without a fight and aims to pledge herself as a knight by proving herself in the tournament. She fights really good, but it isn't enough. To add insult to injury, Cardan humiliates her after the fight.
Later at home, Prince Dane, the favorite pick for the next High King, appears to Jude. He says he doesn't want her as a knight, but he does want her as a spy. She's really cutthroat, so she's excited for this opportunity.
He offers her a boon if she accepts, and Jude says she wants to be immune to glamour. Dane accepts, and Jude joins his court of shadows and starts to sniff out treason.
She starts by spying on Baelkin, the oldest heir to the throne. She goes to his house and sees him beating Cardan with a belt. Of course, he has a bad home life. That's why he's so mean.
Also happening at the same time, Locke, Cardan's friend, is two-timing Jude and her twin sister Taryn.
Too late, Jude realizes that Maddox is involved in a coup. At Dane's coronation, Maddox and Baelkin kill everyone who could be a successor to the crown except for Cardan.
Jude kidnaps him while she figures out what to do, and they talk about how they hate each other. Like, seriously, so much. They even kiss to prove it.
I can't believe you put the kiss in there and you didn't get the she finds him under a table and then drags him out to kidnap him and puts a knife against his throat moment.
Well, I guess we can add that in.
Have I taught you nothing? It's important. Jude slowly pieces together a conspiracy where Dane sired a child with his father's consort, who he ordered killed to cover it up. Jude's foster mother, Oriana, cut the child from her belly and raised him as her own. Oak, Jude's adopted brother.
The crown can only be given by blood to blood, so Jude orchestrates a ruse to get Cardan to swear fealty to her for a year and a day, and tricks him into becoming the High King until Oak is of age.
The second book, The Wicked King, starts 5 months into her year-long agreement with Cardan. Jude serves as essential and tries to work out how she is going to prevent inevitable war.
Cardan is stepping into his role as High King more than she ever thought he would. Jude is worried that he won't step down when the time comes.
Cardan and Jude have a super aggressive partnership, so aggressive, in fact, that they fuck just to get it out of their systems. Yeah, whatever.
At Taryn's wedding to Locke, Jude gets kidnapped by the Undersea and Baelkin. To her surprise, Cardan has negotiated an agreement for her release in less than a month.
Belkin thinks that Jude is being glamored, unaware of her resistance thanks to Dane, and tries to frame her for poisoning Cardan as he has compelled her to do.
Jude leaves a delirious Cardan to deal with that with her sword, and she kills Baelkin. But upon returning to Cardan, she finds that Taryn has tricked him in his delirium and posed as Jude to tell him to hand over his forces to Maddox.
Jude is confused. She said nothing to compel Cardan to do that, but Cardan did it simply because he trusts her.
Trying to recoup, Cardan implores Jude to release him from her control on him, in exchange for becoming the High Queen of Elfhame. Jude accepts, but her victory is short-lived.
Queen Orla of the Undersea is pissed that Belkin is dead. Jude, when asked by Cardan, admits she did it. Cardan exiles her to the mortal realm, only allowing her to come back unless excused by the crown.
In Book 3, Jude is bumming around the mortal realm with her oldest Fae sister, Vivi.
Taryn shows up at her apartment telling Jude that she needs her to take her place. She has killed Locke, and there is going to be a trial where she will be forced to tell the truth about it.
Jude does so. Cardan finds an excuse to pull her aside and tells her that she can't fool him, And he wonders why she's been away for so long.
Jude is furious with him, but can't quite take it out on him yet. Maddox has arrived with his forces to rescue Taryn, and Jude is whisked away to the Court of Teeth.
Jude keeps up the Terran charade for way longer than she's comfortable with, but is awoken one night by Cardan. He's come to save her.
In her escape attempt, Maddox mortally wounds her, but she is healed by the land. Jude returns to Elfheim and reunites with Cardan as his queen, after getting shot out of the rafters suspected on being an assassin. Oops.
When she awakes, Cardan explains that Jude could have come back any time she wanted. The terms were until she was excused by the crown. Their marriage made her a queen. So Jude feels kind of dumb.
Kind of.
Just a little.
Maddox offers to parley with Cardan to try and goad him into a duel, but Cardan says, "Fuck you," and breaks the blood crown in half. This causes him to turn into a giant snake that brings ruination to the land.
All seems lost, and Jude almost finds herself giving in to her enemy's demands, but she decides the best thing to do is to slay the serpent, and Cardan rises from the blood of the beast.
The war is over. Jude and Cardan won, and they get their happily ever after with a coronation as husband and wife. And tail. The end.
Why'd you have to add the tail in?
Because it's funny.
Yeah, he has a tail. Get over it.
But it's like a whole separate being. It's funny.
It's not a separate being. It's part of him.
It acts like it. He's like, ooh, rubbing her up and down with the tail. It's weird.
It acts like it because it acts subconsciously of his desires.
I'm just saying, he likes a little tail action.
Sounds like Jude got some tail.
What are we even on? Oh my gosh.
Yeah, you liked that.
What?
Honor, what did you think of this book?
Oh my god, I'm so glad you asked for our podcast. That's, wow. Who knew that was coming? I love these books, but I did not love them while reading them. And I will tell you why.
Is this a reread for you?
This is a reread for me.
Okay.
I'm discussing currently the first read through.
Okay.
Because I found this book based off Book Talk recommendations, and I was like, that sounds so amazing. I want to read them. I just finished A Court of Thorns and Roses, which I also thought this was funny that we did the podcast order, the same order I read them.
Oh wait, that is funny.
That is, right? Literally a year later. Weird timing. So I was like, oh, these are going to be good. Like, it's a Faye story as well. And I started reading it, and Book Talk hypes up the romance so much that they have lost sight about what the books are actually about, because the books are not romance books. They're like political fighting spy action books, but the romance is a subplot. So I didn't like them at first. It wasn't until the third book that I really started to enjoy Jude as a character so much that it negated the fact of how disappointed I was that the books were not what I was told they would be.
It took you a while to come around on Jude?
Yeah. Well, I was like
Really?
so annoyed of what was going on because it wasn't what I thought the book was supposed to be.
Interesting. So you went into it with these preconceived notions and you were upset that it wasn't the fantasy that you had built up in your mind.
Yes, ma'am.
Excellent.
Just like me dating boys.
Stop. That's so funny.
I straight up, by the middle of the second book, was not enjoying it so much that I told my friend I would give the books to her. Shout out to Jocelyn. Because I just wasn't enjoying them. So I was like, I'm just going to finish them so I at least know how the story ends, and then you get to keep them. And then I loved the books, and I was like, well, I already said I was giving them to you, so here you go.
At least you didn't go back on that. Exactly. Very Faye of you, Honor. Very Faye.
Well, honestly, I did it because I bought the hardcover of the How the King of Elfheim Came to Hate Stories, or whatever the title is. And I had paperbacks of the other three, and they didn't match, so I was like, this is a good excuse for me to get the hardbacks of the other three and not feel guilty.
So true, bestie. So true.
So true. So now I have a matching set. But the second read through, I really knew kind of what was coming and what the book was really based about. And so I got a better understanding of how everything was building up and why the story focused on the things that it focused on rather than on the romance. And so I enjoyed it so much more because I wasn't led to believe it was something that it wasn't, you know? I didn't
Hmm.
have those preconceived notions anymore.
Interesting. Okay.
What did you think of it, Bestie? This is your first read through, correct?
This is my first read through. Like you, I've seen a lot of this book on Book Talk. Jude is a favorite of many people. So is Cardan. I really enjoyed this read through because I would like tell you before I read this, I would send you like TikToks about it. I'm like, oh, this is really getting me excited to read this. I'm really excited to get into this world. It sounds so fun. The romance sounds amazing. And you were cautioning me. You were like, don't build it up to something that it's not going to be. And
I
I
was
said,
like,
I'm not
oh,
going to do that. I'm not going to do that. But I really enjoyed it. I thought it had a good mix of romance and plot. I thought the plot, because it didn't rely on the romance to make the fucking story. And I think the plot of The Cruel Prince is what ACOTAR wanted to be. Because it's this big and epic war and there's romance. And it just, ACOTAR just wasn't there.
mhm.
It relied too heavily on the characters to pad out what the plot needed. But this relies on the plot and the characters are like the icing and the sprinkles on top. It makes it just
I
so much better.
I fully agree with that statement. This
Mhm.
is much more well-rounded in the story and the characters itself because everything is fleshed out and has an understanding on how it is built and how everything works in the world compared to what Akatar had, which was very much character-based, which if that's what you're going for is good, but if you try to figure out the world and how the magic and everything works in Akatar, you're going to be confused. Like you're just not.
I'm sure if you really sat down and looked at it, there would be a million plot holes. I do not have the
Mhm.
time, nor do I have the care to sit down and look at it. Like on a first pass through, it definitely holds up, but like The Cool Prince definitely holds up to scrutiny. And that is so
Mhm.
important for me when reading a book. Will it hold up to scrutiny? And I absolutely think that the plot does. I think that the characters do. I think they're very well rounded. Everything's very well written. I love the political intrigue because you were worried that I wouldn't like that part, but I did enjoy that part. I thought it was, as far as political intrigue stories go, I know sometimes they can be a little dense and hard to digest. I like this one. I thought it was easy
Mhm.
enough to process. Holly Black does this really interesting thing that I kind of appreciate because sometimes I would not be paying attention just because I'd be like tired or something and I'd be like reading at the end of the day. But when a piece of information is important or it's a callback to like an earlier scene or even a previous book, she will put an excerpt from that previous book referencing exactly what they were talking about. Like something that I totally missed, and I don't know how I fucking missed that. But Grimson, who's like the master blacksmith who forged the blood crown, all this other shit, he gave Cardan a gift at the beginning of book two that later in book three you learn was cursed with a word. Grimson could turn the spider into something that would bite him until he died. And Jude recalls a moment when she was in Cardan's rooms and she saw a spider encased in like a glass globe, scrabbling to get out. Missed that. But then she recalled it later in Queen of Nothing, and I was like, okay, that happened. I believe you. Which, like, I appreciate that. It makes it's a political intrigue story that's easily digestible. I like that.
Yeah, I think I was very much projecting onto you about a lot of that because I was like, oh, I couldn't get into the political intrigue and everything because I was so upset that the romance wasn't there. So I was like, don't get into that. So I kind of threw that on you a lot. I apologize about that one.
No, I totally understand because I feel like book talk also they act like it's the only part of the story, but it's absolutely not. So I can definitely see how that false narrative was constructed in your mind. Something that I did notice was a line that Book Talk often likes to attribute to Cardan, which is when Jude is seeing Locke in book one, Locke takes her to a garden party and she sees Cardan there. And while she's kissing Locke, she's looking at Cardan. Later in Queen of Nothing, Jude is having a nightmare sequence where Locke is like, oh, she kissed me. And Cardan replies to him, she was kissing you, but she was looking at me. Everyone attributes that to Cardan, but it's not true. It's a figment of Jude's guilty imagination.
Okay, but technically, like, a version of Cardan said it.
Okay, but it wasn't him. Jude said that to herself, if we're being real. As Cardan points
He
out
really
later in that
did.
dream, Jude was
But I
like, I
think,
know. Jude said, I'm so down bad right now. I don't even want to admit it to myself. I'm going to create a figment of my fake husband to tell it to me for him because I don't want to tell it to myself.
Okay, let's be real. Cardan does not know how to use his words in a loving manner.
Okay, but can you blame
She
him?
really does have to kind of. No, I can't. She really does have to kind of make it for him. So that's fair. Literally, he insults her and he's like, oh my god, I did such a good job being nice to her today.
He's like, I had 3 backhanded compliments. I'm so nice.
And she's standing over there getting slowly more insecure and like, fuck him.
No, it's so funny because for someone who grew up around fairies, Jude is very wary of lies and like double-edged truths, I guess, if you want to put it at that, because a main plot point is fairies can't lie. So she's very used to the duplicitous nature of the way that they speak. But she is so bad at interpreting that when it comes to herself. Jude is a terrible spy. And we talked about this. She wanted to be a knight. She wanted to hit things with her sword until the problem went away. Not a good spy.
She has anger issues, but she works them out in a healthy coping way until she becomes a spy.
Daddy issues do not a good spy make.
No, they do not. Especially when your daddy is the one that you're against.
She's like, damn, Maddox like killed my mom and my dad. I guess I kind of love him because I see myself as the monster that he is because he raised me. Anyway.
The trauma that these characters have from their childhoods is so much. Like, Jude with the whole, like, I see myself in him because I see how monstrous he is and I see how monstrous I am. And then you've got Vivi that's just over there like, this is not the world that I grew up in, this is not the world I want, but I'm trapped here and I'm gonna do my best to like daydream about everything that I have been taken from and keep as much of it close to my heart as possible. You've got Cardan who's over here like, I have never seen true love because everything, a little bit of love that's given to me is given through forms of anger and abuse, and so that's how I view love to be.
Cardan was severely neglected, and he has major abandonment issues for sure. Something.
And if you read the King of Elfheim like side story, it's so much more heartbreaking.
I have heard really mixed reviews about that.
I like it, but I feel like that's mostly because it's just a beautiful book. There's so much like gorgeous artwork and everything, but we're not talking about that. But there is a little bit of lack to the story of it, so I thought it was good. It's a good side story.
I do like that because I feel like these characters aren't quite done yet, if that makes sense. Because where the Queen of Nothing ended, Maddox was exiled to the mortal realm. Vivi was like, this is so fun. Vivi's still falling in love with Heather all over again, who was her mortal girlfriend who she brought to fairy, but then Heather kind of regretted it.
Her fucking mind. Yeah.
Well, then Heather was like, I actually regret asking you to wipe my mind, but you already made the deal, so you can't take it back. So then Vivi has to go on a quest to regain her love, and if Heather falls in love with her again, then all the memories will come back. It's very romantic, which I think would make an excellent side story.
The representation is so much better than ACOTAR did.
Oh my god, it's just like casual.
That difficult. Literally. It's just there. It exists.
Because no, like within the first 10 chapters of the first book, Vivi has a girlfriend and it's like not even a big deal. And it's like, thank you. Even though the story does take place in our world, I don't want homophobia in my high fantasy novels.
Yup.
I did see a very hot take on TikTok, and it was the audio words like, thank you for coming to my TED Talk. I think I sent this one to you. And the take was, Cardan is genuinely toxic, and I'm concerned for everyone who's legitimately in love with him. I don't agree with that take. Do you want to discuss that with me?
Okay. I will discuss that with you. Give me your reasons here.
Okay. I'm gonna make an appeal to you. As someone who has you have told me, you have told me, I know that I have toxic traits. Quote Honor Barrett. You said that to me.
Ouch.
I mean, you said that to me. We could cut it out. We don't have to keep that in. But
just tell the whole world, man.
But I know that I'm a little bit toxic too. I'm a little bit toxic. Yeah. But
I think there's bad traits in everyone. It's just that is a part of life. It's how you work against it and try
no,
to be better that
absolutely.
makes the difference.
Which is the point that I'm trying to make. Because we see Cardan's childhood. He was
Hmm.
suckled from a cat because his mother was too busy fucking partying. And whenever his mother did pay attention to him,
Hmm.
it was to tell him, take what you want, do whatever you want. You don't have to be refined or generous or kind to anyone. The only attention he got was when he was being cruel, which is why he did that. He had a bad home life is an understatement for what happened to Cardan.
And the interesting thing about the side story is it's very much about his like childhood and him growing up, and it features some of the other characters and things that have happened, but it highlights so much about how when he had negative behavior, that was when he got his attention. That was the only way he got it.
He's a little attention seeker. Is that absolutely toxic? Yes. But by the third book, he's not all the way there yet. But he is trying and he is making an effort to acknowledge his toxic behaviors and change. He's talking with Taryn about the mortal world. He visits with Jude to see Vivi. And
Hmm.
he doesn't even insult the mortal world while he's there. He's just kind of like, wow, this is fun. This is cool.
He's
And
literally
he's
vibing. He's like, this is a part of you and I love it.
yeah, and he confronts those toxic behaviors within himself and he learns to grow past them. So I
Hmm.
don't think that Cardan is a toxic character, period. I think he is a character who has toxic beginnings, but he undergoes this wonderful character arc where he learns how to grow past that. And it's okay if you're in love
See,
with him because because
uh-huh.
it's okay. Because maybe when he's mean it's a little sexy.
Yeah. You like
Just a
the
little.
degradation kink?
No, but I'm just saying.
Yeah, sure. You take your time
I
accepting it, bestie. You take your time accepting it.
he is someone who doesn't believe that he's worthy of love, which is probably why he reacts to Jude in the way that he does. Because you later learn that he was sending her letters where he's like, "Hey, Jude, that was pretty crazy. You can come back now." And then he's like,
Yes. This is when she was exiled.
"Yeah, when she was exiled, he sends her these letters, and then he's like, "Hey, was it something I said? Please come back."
My favorite part was when he puts in the PS, he's like, please come be mad at me at a closer distance.
Yeah,
That
because
broke me. I was like, oh. I would argue, okay, Carden is very much toxic at the beginning, but I think that comes from the fact that his childhood, he's surrounded by toxic people, and he has never been shown a way to not be that. When he is shown, he grows from that, and I think you're right that he does show all of the signs of working to kind of reverse that. I agree. I think Jude's the toxic one.
that's a hot take. Do elaborate.
That's a hot take because um she very much uses Carden. Even
Hmm.
after kind of falling for him, she uses him to get what she wants. To For example, she literally kidnaps him against his will.
Kisses him while he's tied up in a chair.
Yeah, consent.
He
Yeah,
does. Well, he did
consent.
ask for it.
He did, but also, yeah, that one's not really the
That's
biggest
neither
deal.
here nor there.
But she very much like even when he offers to marry her, she does not marry him for a reason of love or caring for him. She marries him because she wants to be queen and that gets her a higher level than before. She does not trust him, which is fair for how he's treated her in the past, but for example, when they went to the human world, she was constantly on and watching and making sure he was behaving correctly for what she believed he needed to do. And then there's the whole year of him being under her control and her making him do things that he didn't necessarily want to do. And when he asked, he said, I would listen to you. I just ask that you give me the freedom to choose to do so. She wouldn't do it. She's
Mm-hmm.
toxic.
Though that again opens up the dialogue of how your childhood trauma impacts your toxic behaviors and how you need to
Jude
learn and grow and move past that.
Jude's comes from she does not trust anyone because everyone she has trusted has betrayed her. The most recent being like Locke and Taryn.
Jude and Cardan definitely bond over abandonment issues, but I do think where Jude has some repressed feelings that Cardan does not is that she has these moments in her life that are like core memories where she feels powerless. And being in close proximity to power, gaining that power for herself, gives her this high like no fucking other. Mm-hmm. And she's like, yes, I want power.
Control issues.
No, she absolutely has control issues, or rather lack thereof control issues. Because there was this chapter in the first book where Jude is like, I'm telling the story all wrong. And it was really interesting. And I was like, this is really weird because it kind of broke from the narrative structure and she addressed the audience. She broke the fourth wall. And I almost overlooked this chapter, but then I would find myself like thinking back to it. And it recounts 3 moments in her life that she has never told anyone about where she feels completely and utterly powerless. And I think that is why she does everything that she does. Toxic traits and all. Jude wants nothing more than to get power for herself. And if she uses people for that, then that's what she does. And
that's a toxic behavior.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's right. I'm just saying she's doing it, you know? That's another reason why I feel like there's still more story to be told in this universe. Because I don't think Jude ever fully confronted her feeling of being powerless. She just accumulated so much fucking power that it didn't matter because she never had to confront it. She had power before she felt the need to confront it.
I think some of that confrontation did come about. I don't think it came to the full extent that it was needed. I think it came with her going against Maddox so much. And I think it came with her trusting herself in that killing the serpent was the right thing to do. Because I think there was so much fear and lack of control that she was having in that moment that forced her to kind of confront those, whether it was subconscious or not, that she did confront, and it turned out for the better, and I think that helped her. But I agree, I don't think we fully saw the growth that is going to be there for the characters in the future.
Is this series ongoing? Is there going to be a thing where there's like a secondary trilogy? Do you know?
I believe it is finished, but we can check.
That's also very interesting to me because usually stories where a mortal falls in love with a fae, it rounds off their romance by making the mortal become fae.
Okay, they have lines in the book where if you stay in Elfhame, you do not age.
Yes.
So I think there would become a certain point that if she left Elfhame, she would disintegrate to like ash because she died in the human world. But she could, if she stays, she lives, because there was who was it? There was one that was there that was human, but he had been there for hundreds of years or something.
Oh, Valmorin?
Valmorin, yes.
So that was the king's former seneschal.
That's right. I think that's correct. Is that correct? Was that correct? Was he human?
No, I do remember what you're talking about, because it was like a line at the end of The Queen of Nothing where it was like, oh, if I were to leave, then I would like show my years or something. So there was like a certain point where she would need to stay. But I feel like that, again, that's a thing that Jude wouldn't like, because that's a thing that has power over her. She wouldn't be able to go where she likes. And if this universe continues, I'm going to propose a theory that it won't be Jude becoming Fae, but rather Cardan becoming mortal.
I could see that.
Can't you see that?
I think he would prefer that in a way.
Because I do, because once Oak would become of age, Cardan would step down, give the crown to him, and retire with Jude to the mortal realm.
Well, there is no real crown anymore.
Well, okay, well, the crown as a concept. He's going to give the throne.
The throne. Yeah. So it looks like that is finished at 3 books. Currently, there is nothing set for a future book. So.
Well, who can say? If she ever chooses to come back to this, that's my proposition for what happens. One thing that I like that this book did that a lot of other fairy love stories don't do was that they made them like the ages that they're supposed to be and not the ages that they look like.
Right?
No, like Jude is 17, Cardan's like 18, 19. And it's like, thank you for making this age appropriate and not a 500-year-old in a 19-year-old's body. Because that's creepy.
Awkward.
No, it's literally so creepy when they do that. But they didn't do that in this book. So good on you, Holly Black, for not fucking succumbing to that.
Another thing that's better than ACOTAR.
What? You want me to add another to the list?
What? What? No,
I like the way that the sex scenes were written in this book. I think they were tastefully written with a lot of emphasis on the emotional feelings. And
And the tail.
yes, honor and the tail. Sure. You're really on that one.
It's funny.
It is very funny. But I like the way that they were written, especially because Jude turns 18 at some point, but like I believe in the first two books she's still 17. So good for you for not making it explicit, because that's another thing that ACOTAR does that they make it weird with. But what do I know?
Well, nothing, obviously. I mean, what are you, like a reader?
It's nothing that I know. It's just a lot of opinions that I have.
A person with morals? What? So I already explained that I thought the book was a little bit overrated based off what TikTok was saying it was supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
What did you think? Was it overrated, underrated, based off Book Talk's explanation?
I feel like Book Talk grossly misrepresented what it is, but I don't think it's overhyped. I think it's perfectly well hyped. It's just not might be what you're looking for if you're basing all your opinions off Book Talk. But I thought it was a wonderfully written story. Like, yes, the romance elements were there, but it holds up on its own, even without consistent romance in your face. And I think that's very important.
I agree. Good explanation. Do you think that the characters themselves stood out to you in any way? Because a lot of people, I feel, really connect with Jude because of how strong of a feminine character she is.
She's totally a strong female character, yes.
How did you feel about your connection with the characters and their personalities?
Let's see. I'm no simp, first of all. Let me just put that out there. But I enjoyed Juden and Cardan's dynamic together, and I enjoyed them separately as well. Because, again, they can stand on their own without the romance needing to pad who they are as people, a very important characteristic. I think that what makes Jude stand out to a lot of people is her resilience, because Jude consistently gets knocked back down, both like emotionally and physically, but she always gets back up again, and she always has a plan, and she's always thinking on her feet. And her weaknesses is that she's a little dense sometimes in terms of like spycraft and wordplay, but who isn't? You know?
My favorite is when she fully was in the human world and she's like, "Oh, I figured this out." The way he worded this, like, I can excuse myself, and then she was like, "No, he's not that smart."
No, right?
Like, you dumbass.
Girl, even if he wasn't that smart, he still worded it that way. You can come back.
Like, literally. And she was
No,
like,
right.
"I'm trapped here forever. Life is horrible." And I was like, ugh.
Another thing that people probably really like about Jude is she constantly adapts and makes the best out of any situation, even if it is like a shitty situation. Because yes, it sucks that her parents were murdered in front of her when she was 7 and she was taken away to this world that soon becomes all she's ever known, and she can't go back home, air quotations around home, if she really wanted to, because that's not where she belongs anymore. A big part of her character arc is coming to terms with, I do not belong there anymore, but I'm going to make the best out of my new home. And if they try and, it's like that saying, a child will burn down a village to feel its warmth. And that's where Jude and Cardan come together. And I also think it's what makes Jude such an amazing character, because she is unafraid of scorched fucking earth.
I agree. If you're like in an emergency situation, she is the one you want to be helping you out, because she keeps such a calm, level head for the most part through all of those situations. Especially if it seems dire and there's no like way out. She's like, aha, yes there is.
Mm-hmm. She's like, I'll figure it out later, but we'll figure it out.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And I think what made her and Cardan just such a formidable partnership is that they were both willing to go that far. Mm-hmm. And there's something about characters that are extremely cutthroat and willing to leave everything behind that is so admirable, because I think it's something that, while a lot of us have been through some shit that has changed us personally, there is power in being able to liberate yourself by burning all your bridges like that, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. And there's power in it because it's not an easy thing to do. And I feel like maybe people project onto Jude and wish, I wish I could do that, you know? I wish I could burn all my bridges like that. I wish I could come to terms with the monster inside me and embrace it in its best parts.
And then have other people embrace it.
And love you
See
for
the
it.
good. Yep. And see the good more than the bad. Yep.
Hmm.
Speaking of connections, though, let's talk about Jude and Taryn. Because they
Okay.
are essentially from the outside the same person. They're twins. They grew up in this same environment, with the same interactions with all of these other Fae. But they came out of it as completely, out of the experience as completely different people.
Hmm.
And I want to talk about that. Jude is very much like cutthroat, gung ho, gonna get done what needs to get done. Versus Taryn, and Jude's very much more upfront with it. Versus Taryn is a lot more understated, but she still has some of those same qualities. She's not gonna right out of the bush come after you, but if you push her, she will do what needs to be done.
Like Locke.
Like Log.
Jude may
Just
be cutthroat in
dead.
general, but Taryn was literally cutthroat in that moment.
Yes, she was.
She was like, he
Um,
was just like telling me that I had no story in me left anymore, and so I just stabbed him in the neck.
and I was like, isn't that fun? Isn't that interesting? What a good story. And he's like, eh.
Because I feel like,
Dead.
in relation to Taryn and Jude and mommy and daddy issues, I feel like, well, Jude definitely had daddy issues. Taryn picked a parent, they both picked a parent to latch on to, and they stuck with them and they vied for their approval. From the flashback sequence in the prologue of book 2, we know that Taryn was never particularly gifted at swordplay. So in order to find approval from one parent, she had to switch what she was going to be cutthroat at. She said, okay, if I can't be cutthroat in violence, like dad, I'm going to be cutthroat in court politics, like mom. And so she refines herself, and that's how she gains agency. That's how she gains power, and just not make her weak. But
It doesn't.
it's just different. No, Taryn's incredibly strong. And is she a bitch about it sometimes? Yes, but so is Jude.
Yeah.
So
Underhandedly more than Jude is. Jude's like upfront and Taryn's much more underhanded. But I think that comes from the court politics. You're taught to be underhanded with the way that you do things.
absolutely.
But the interesting thing to me is they both very much judged the other for that
Hmm.
when they were doing the exact same thing.
They are the same in more ways than one.
Mm-hmm.
And even though they kind of like hated each other for it, they hated each other for it just a little bit. They got over it eventually because they're sisters and they're always gonna like come back around to each other, you know?
Now, did you like Taryn? That's my question. Did you like Taryn? Did you like Jude? What was going on?
I think
What?
I liked Jude more, but I feel like I can't bring myself to hate Taryn because she did what she had to do, and she even in because the whole thing with Locke was two timing them, and usually I never blame the other woman if they know that he's like in a relationship, but technically Taryn was there first. Jude didn't know. Taryn couldn't tell her because Locke was like, if you truly want to fit in, then you can't tell anyone about us. And I knew from the moment where Taryn was like, what are you doing with Locke? I was like, oh, so that's like the mystery guy in her life. For sure. I feel like Locke is the kind of guy to be like, I don't know, I just don't support that lifestyle. And then ask his girlfriend to have a threesome with a woman.
Yeah.
That is Locke's character to a T, I feel like.
Locke is a douche.
Locke fucking sucks. Fuck Locke.
Yes.
But back on the task at hand, I don't hate Taryn. I think there were moments where I was like, come the fuck on, dude. Like, can we work together just this once? But I think Taryn had enough redeeming moments where she didn't fuck over Jude that I don't hate her as much as I potentially could.
I dislike her. I don't hate her. But I have two specific moments that bother me about her character.
Mm-hmm.
The first was after the whole fight with everything that happened between her, Locke, and Jude. She still chose Locke.
Mm.
That was fucked up. First of all, because he was playing you and your sister, because you know what he was like, you've seen everything that he's done. And your sister has always been there for you, no matter what. She has done her best to help you, protect you. Maybe you don't want that. Okay. But then tell her that. Don't just go back to, like, the bad situation.
Mm-hmm.
But after that, I was like, okay, whatever. You know, that's her choice, her life. The second time that really pissed me off was after she killed Locke. Rather than face her own consequences, she was ready to kind of throw Jude under the bus. And she said, Jude, you can just go and deal with all of the consequences of my actions because, well, you can lie because you weren't the one that did it, but you look like me, so they'll think it was me talking to them.
Mm. Okay.
So she used her underhanded political, things that she was brought up and raised about to use Jude to get herself out of trouble for an action that she created.
That's definitely fair. She relied on Jude a lot to take her out of the consequences of her own actions.
Almost every single time. Anytime there was a consequence, she would throw it on Jude.
To the Taryn choosing Locke thing, I would like to just propose the idea that maybe Taryn thought that a better opportunity wasn't going to come along. And so instead of withering away in Elfheim in her old age, she wanted to take the chance that she had because she knew that her sister would always come around, which she did, rather than wait for another fairy boy to fall in love with her, or quote unquote love, because I do not believe that Locke loved her.
I don't think so.
And give her a life that she wanted. Which, okay, another thing where I don't think that the story is quite done being told yet. The ghost was looking at Taryn at the end of the third book, and I'm like, okay, you know what that look means.
That, dude, I kind of hope for them.
They'd be so good together. And she knows his true name, which could be really sexy.
Right? Oh, okay. Yeah, I agree with that one. I agree. I think she very much ended up choosing Locke because he was what she viewed to be the best choice for what she had available.
And she might have convinced herself that it was the only choice.
Right.
Even though it wasn't true.
That part stopped bugging me less. It was just the fact that she did it in the first place that bothered me.
Mm-hmm.
But the understanding of it, I accept and appreciate to a point. It was also an option for her to go back to the human world, which she didn't choose at all, where there were many more prospects for herself. But again, that takes her out of what she knows. That takes her out of the line of like command or succession up the world that she's in. Mm-hmm. So there's gives and takes to everything.
I feel like what really would have made Taryn irredeemable in my eyes, there was a moment at the end of the first book where they were like throwing the blood crown around because, first of all, the ghost threw the crown to Taryn because he thought she was Jude. And then she like picks it up and she's like, what do I do with this? And Baelkin's like, oh, give it to me. And Jude's like, give it to Oak. Like, give it to him. And then Taryn has this moment where she's like, and then she gives it to Oak. If she hadn't given it to Oak, I would have been like, fuck you.
Right?
But she made the right call on that at the end.
Almost always come through at the end. It was always the middle parts that were like, girl.
If you don't get your shit together.
Right? Right? It's like, I know Jude won't come at you, but I will.
Jude won't give you these hands, but you can catch mine.
Right?
Jude almost gave her hands. Jude would have fucking demolished her in swordplay.
Basically did, but she was like sword, and then Vivi was like, no, and Jude's like, just give me one shot. That's all I need. One swing. Vivi's like, how about we calm down?
Is there anything happening with The Cruel Prince by way of TV adaptations?
Not that I am aware of. But I would love it if they did. I think this could be a really fun thing to, especially creating the scenery and the character designs for, could be really cool.
I just think that the costume design alone would be, I feel like it would be so incredible. Yeah, I'm not seeing anything about it. I'm like Googling right now, and there's a page that says Timothée Chalamet as Cardan Greenbriar in 2021.
What?
They would cast Timothée Chalamet, wouldn't they?
They would try, yeah.
They would fucking try.
I mean,
that's annoying.
If you give him some eyeliner, he is the tall, scrawny boy with black hair, so...
Just slap a tail on that boy,
Slap a tail on him. I think he could fit as Cardan. I don't know that he'd be my first choice. I would have to see it in action, but...
Fair enough.
Cardan is so emo.
He's literally so emo. If Cardan Greenbriar came out in 2012 or 2013, I say Cardan Greenbriar coming out like, congratulations, but no. I meant like if if the books came out in like 2012 or 2013, the grip he would have had on Tumblr.com. People would have been like, oh, my little tail boy, ooh, woo, so soft cinnamon roll. There would have been like fan art, the Cardan kitties.
The fan fiction, though.
Oh my God.
Cardan kitties? Oh God.
Can we just take a moment to thank God that The Cruel Prince did not come out in 2012, 2013? Because I do not think I would have survived 2012 Tumblr if Cardan Greenbriar was in it.
That would have been a time.
Wouldn't it have been?
Oh, I cannot.
I just know there would have been like in the bad timeline, as if this isn't already the bad timeline, but in a timeline more doomed than this, there's dark Tumblr forums where there's like the Cruel Prince kin drama. And it's like, I'm Cardan and you can't, no duplicates because I'm the only Cardan. And there's probably like Balekin kinnies that are probably like, stop. Stop attacking me for who I kid. Because of course, if you are listening to this and you are younger and you like know about like kins from TikTok, kins on TikTok and kins on Tumblr were not the same thing. No. So just like take that with a grain of salt as we make fun of this, because it's much more tame now than it was. Like back then, kids were eating their mother's fucking diamond rings because they thought they were dragons. So this is what we mean when we say other kin drama.
Can you imagine having to be one of those Tumblr kids now? And people are like, oh, what kind of Tumblr face did you have? And they're like,
Girl, I was super Hulak, so like I'm almost there with you.
Oh, you were super Hulak?
I was a super Hulak.
I didn't have Tumblr, but I feel like if I did, I would have been right there with super Hulak. Because I was in that whole phase.
Oh yeah, then you would have been.
I was on the outskirts of it, but I was there.
I was also a homestuck, but we're not going to talk about that. Let's bring it back to the book.
Say that for TikTok.
We can just have like a homestuck
The amount of
podcast.
people who would have called Cardan daddy.
No, I don't think he would have been daddy. I think he would, like that one chart that they had where it was like, looks like a cinnamon roll, could kill you.
Roll. Yeah.
Looks like they could kill you is actually a cinnamon roll.
Yeah.
What would they?
Roll is a cinnamon roll.
I mean, they would have Cardan in the quadrant of looks like he could kill you is a cinnamon roll.
Cardan is a cinnamon roll. Exactly what I was gonna say. He literally is though, because he just like he splays around and looks so badass and cool. I say it's the eyeliner, but in reality, like he just is really lazy. He doesn't want to have to deal with all of this.
No,
He's
which
like,
brings
can someone pour me another glass of wine, please?
Changed my mind. Cardan has a wardrobe in the mortal world, and in that wardrobe, there's a shirt that says Rosale Day.
Oh my god, yes.
Because he totally has that.
He totally would. I feel like he would have ripped skinny jeans too. Is that just me?
Oh, he would definitely have ripped skinny jeans, which is why he would have had a death grip on Tumblr if he was around in that era.
Hey, Chloe, before we get into ratings, there's something I want to talk about.
What is it?
You sent me a picture, and I found it absolutely abhorrent that you were not using a bookmark.
Yeah, and what about it? We've been over this. I read with the dust jacket on. I used to dog ear my pages, but I don't anymore. Mostly now. I think while reading this series, I used a receipt, a paint sample of the purple variety, and a sticker of Smokey Bear as a bookmark.
Oh my god.
Yeah, and what about it?
We need to break you of this habit. We need to get you some like actual bookmarks to use because this is bad.
Well, what would you suggest?
Actually, I just saw on Instagram this page. It's called Twin Reads Blog, and they sell a bunch of bookmarks. I think they actually have a sale right now where they're selling like 5 bookmarks for $5, which I thought was fantastic because, as you know, I don't have a job. I am broke as hell.
Hell yeah, you are.
I actually don't agree with me. But I actually can afford that. So that was very exciting to me. And I love bookmarks. I collect all kinds of different bookmarks. I one day dream of just having a bookmark reserved per book that I own. I think that'd be fun.
That's an insane dream. But it sounds like with Twin Reads Blogs on Instagram, that could be a really cost-effective dream for you. I'm looking at them right now and they have like all these different aesthetics. They're coming out with new sets all the time. They have these cute little crocheted ones, which I'm absolutely bonkers about. They're so adorable. Little Hogwarts house scarves.
Yes, and they've got some Christmas ones out right now. They've got this like 12 days of bookmark where you get individual Christmas bookmarks wrapped in like wrapping paper and with like a numbered countdown. It's like an advent calendar, but for bookmarks. And as someone who cannot have dairy, so they can't have the chocolate advent calendars, that's fantastic.
Well, it sounds like the perfect gift for the book lover in your life, especially the lactose intolerant ones.
I'm not lactose intolerant. I just can't have dairy.
Well, anyway, they have 2 different bookmark subscriptions, but bookmarks aren't the only thing they do. They also have book sleeves. And something horrible that happened to me this time around was I thought it was like decorative gold leaf around the snake head on the back of Queen of Nothing. What it actually was Jack in the Box encrusted taco sauce that I had placed it down on top of. And now there's a grease stain on my book. And that wouldn't have happened if I had a book sleeve. So I wish I had known about this. No, right?
Bestie.
I wish I had known about Twin Reads blog sooner, so that way I could have ordered a book sleeve from them. If you're interested in not destroying your books like I do, you can DM them on Instagram. And you can also check out everything available in their shop on their Instagram stories.
I think I'm going to have to buy you one of those book sleeves, Bestie, for Christmas. Because you clearly need it. Abusing your books.
Yeah, what else is new? All right, let's get into ratings.
Chloe, how would you rate this series?
I would rate this series 4 stars to 4.25.
Good choice, good choice. Where's it losing points for you?
Sometimes I just go based off vibes. No, I know exactly where it loses points, actually, because I was thinking about this morning. And the thing that got me about this book series was that it was a little predictable. I feel like there were plot beats that I expected to happen, and they did, and nothing really made me go, except for in Queen of Nothing, when Taryn was like, Locke is dead, and then she was like, and I killed him. And I was like, oh my God, that's crazy. And shit, there was one other moment, I'll let you know if I remember it, but I can't remember it, that made me like gasp, like, oh my God, this is crazy. But I even expected Cardan to come out of the snake, and it's like out of blood, because there was this ill prophecy.
So early.
No, literally, like there was this ill-fated prophecy over Cardan's star chart or whatever, and it's like, only out of blood will a greater ruler rise or something. And I'm like, so obviously you have to kill him, and then he will like be okay.
And she's like, I can't figure it out. Like, girl, just like read, like.
Then again, are we surprised with her?
No.
Are we surprised that she couldn't figure it out?
She's literally like, oh, I figured out I can come home based off my own excusing of my sins. But no, that's not how that was said. That can't be right. Like, girl, it was. What a good spy she made.
What a good spy
literally,
she makes.
I don't think she managed to get through one assignment correctly. Like,
yeah, she always was like on some bullshit. She like stole a book from Cardan just because she wanted to.
She's so funny.
But yeah, 4 to 4.25, just because I felt it was a little predictable, and I would have appreciated some more gasp-worthy moments. But I think that it gained a lot of points, and the plot was very well thought through. It held me, like the plot held me. I just saw it coming, but it was interesting enough to sustain. So good on the books for that. And the characters, I thought the characters were enjoyable, and I really enjoyed their dynamics together. What would you rate this book?
I would rate this book 4 stars. I agree. It was super predictable. There were a lot of moments where I just got frustrated with the characters. Not just Jude, but like all of them. So that kind of drew me out a little bit because I wanted to like literally just smack them, and I couldn't. However, Jude and Cardan, just Jude and Cardan, solid 4.5.
Just them. Rate the couple.
Just them, 4.5.
We should really come up with a better like rating scale.
No, we need an actual rating scale because this is ridiculous.
No, I have like some ideas in my head bouncing around that we can like tally up the stars and then average them.
Okay.
And then we have like an unbiased, well, it is biased because it is inherently an opinion, but then we'd get like an unbiased.
But it'd be in a better order. Because like there's other books that we've rated 4 stars that I've enjoyed less than this book, but they're both 4 stars. You know what I mean? I don't know how to...
Based on vibes? It's hard with vibes.
I liked reading this book. I thought it kept my attention pretty well. it gets better per book. Like, the last book was far more enjoyable to me than the first one was.
Mhm.
I think because the first one's just dragged down so much with, like, just politics of the world.
I didn't mind the politics personally.
I don't always mind them if it's actually useful in that moment, but it wasn't in that moment. Like, it
Mm,
could have waited a little bit.
I guess that's fair.
Like, yeah.
Just the world building got you.
Yeah. Which
That's
usually it
fair.
doesn't, so surprising. I would recommend this book to any young adults. I feel like it's a good book. I feel like anyone that is not looking for romance specific books, because if you're looking romance specifically, you don't want this one.
Yeah, read this book if you don't mind.
They're cute, but it's not focused on that.
Read this book if you don't mind political intrigue, lots of drama, lots of bloodshed.
If you want a strong female character, you'll love Jude.
This is the book for you if you like strong female characters. This is not enemies to lovers, but it is bullies to lovers, and I will die on that.
It is. It is bullies to lovers. Everyone said it was enemies to lovers, and I was like,
The power dynamic was kind of one-sided.
The pawn scene, and I was like, where? Bitch, where?
Yeah, he was just being mean in that one. But
Yeah.
absolute bullies to lovers, and strong female characters. If that's the kind of things you like in books, go ahead, give it a read.
Give it a read.
All right. We upload episodes bi-weekly. That is once every other week, not twice a week. If we did
Because that's too much reading for Chloe.
Okay, I don't know why it's just for me. Like, I feel like you'd also have a really hard time, and I'm just, like, feeling really attacked right now. Anyway.
Sorry, that was funny. We do have other social media accounts, all at the handle at Young Adult Reviews. We have an Instagram, a TikTok, and a YouTube, as well as Goodreads. So go ahead and check those out.
And give us a follow and a like if you like what we're putting out.
If you enjoy what we're putting out, go ahead and drop suggestions for other books for us to review on our podcast. We have gotten quite a few. We're very excited. We're lining them up in our upcoming reviews, so keep it coming.
In fact, I believe next episode even, we are reviewing a suggestion from one of our listeners, which is so exciting.
We are! Shout out to Stanky Dog. Thank you for listening to our podcast.
Thank you.
Thank you to everyone else who also listens to our podcast.
But especially Stanky Dog for user engagement.
They have commented on a couple of the Q&As for suggestions, so it's very exciting to us. Thank you so much for listening. That is a wrap. That sounded pretty exciting.